being the time of the hour for the meeting of the Public Awareness Personnel Policy Committee.
Yeah.
Okay, call to order. Items to discuss, we have three. First one is community outreach activities.
We do, so we wanted to take a little opportunity today to maybe remind the board, or at least the committee, of some of the things that we do for public outreach, and then give the board or committee an opportunity to provide us any feedback on enhanced opportunities that you may see in the future. So I'm gonna let Chris go ahead and kind of walk through the things that we do, and then I'll kind of maybe guide you guys in conversation
All right.
with other activities. So, Chris?
Okay. So several different things that the department does. Water Academy, you all know that. You were just at it. Full day tour of the district. We do that in the fall. This last year we did the open house in the spring. It's a half day tour. We just stay at the district. We have the Speakers Bureau where we go out and talk at service groups and so forth.
I have a
Yeah.
question about Speakers Bureau.
Yeah.
Do you include any of your board members in that? Only because I used to be the one who used to go to Rotary for the city and for the water for 20 years, and they got bumped by you doing it. So are you continuing to do that?
Absolutely. And the issue, and I'll talk about Speakers Bureau in a little bit, the big issue with Speakers Bureau you run into is when we got a really juicy topic like drought. When I first got here in 2015, everybody was asking me to come out. And then desal was a juicy topic, and we'd go out and talk on that. But there's just not a specific juicy story to tell. So I email all the different service clubs once per quarter, see if they want anything, if they'd like to have us come out. And there's some events we did this year, but it just hasn't been as juicy of a topic at this particular
Just so you know, each of these topics has a sheet beyond it. So
Yeah.
Chris will talk more
Yeah.
about
Oh,
each
okay.
of those
Yeah.
as we go on.
Okay.
So
Just kinda-
Speakers Bureau, booths and street fairs like the Fall Festival. I kind of call this other one partner and contribution events. They're smaller things. We do landscape workshops and then school education programs that we do. So the Water Academy, we usually do it in October. It's good weather at that point. One per year is what we do. The current demand seems to, meet that volume. The Academy was issued in Between the Pipes. It was issued in Quail Call. We do it social media, Facebook and Twitter. We did it at the Farmers Market. I'll explain that a little bit more. But then when we go out and we do the community events, we also have the flyers there.
So why don't you pause there a second, Chris? So that second line, it says current demand seems to support this volume. Just a brief conversation on that. It certainly means we don't need two of them. I would say that. And there's question about whether one is too many. Because we were down to how many?
26
people at the last one?
last
26 at the last one, and 5 or 6 of them were repeat customers. So I think we only had 20 fresh faces at the last one. So, in like, I don't know, are you going to talk about the
Yeah.
impacts? Okay.
Yeah. So, open house was something that the PAP committee talked about last year's PAP committee, where we do a half day, we do it here, we do it on a Saturday, see if we can get a different demographic. And we did the timing so it was right towards the end of June, because you want the kids to be out of school, and you also want the spring sports to be over. There's kind of, if you do it on a Saturday and if it's May or April, you're gonna
Yep.
have kids playing soccer or softball or baseball. The parents aren't gonna make it, so we did it. And the sports programs know the families disperse as soon as July rolls around. So right at the end of June, on a Saturday, didn't have a big turnout at that one, even though it was on a Saturday. And I sort of think we kind of cannibalized from who would come to the Water Academy by having the spring event. So, there's issues with running two of them, and they may chew up each other's customers. It didn't seem like we got a different demographic. I was really hoping at the open house we'd see more young families.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Didn't really materialize. A little bit, not a whole heck of a lot.
You don't keep specific demographic
Yeah, we
information.
don't
It's
have
subjective.
that. Yeah, but yeah, you can get a look at it. And you
You
know
can,
who's
yeah.
there. So
No, let me-
You have to ask them, if they're 20 or 60.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can't tell you the age ranges, but.
When you are at the fire department
Yeah.
open house, how many people do they get there? Do they get a lot or?
This last one I went to was pretty vast. I mean, I'll talk about that one in a second
Well,
because I'm coming to that.
I'm trying to compare ours to theirs and maybe what they're doing differently than we are, other than being a fire station as opposed to a water.
Yeah, they had a good turnout, and I've been there before. In fact, you're going to see a picture of director. I need to look at his face.
Well, there's only
Sanella, right?
Yeah.
Director Sanella.
Yeah.
He was at one of those, and they used to combine the Because I Care event and the fire department event. And what happened was, in the firehouse, it's busy.
yeah.
Over outside, it's not. So they've now separated those things into two separate events.
Uh-huh.
So this most recent time, we were inside the fire station. It was busy. It was a good event.
I have to tell you, just so you know, I argued to get you inside the fire station for years, and maybe it was before you got here.
Yeah.
Because it used to be inside the fire station.
Yeah.
But
Well,
staff like to be outside in the next door event, and I'm going, this is where all the people are. So I'm glad to see that you woke, or you changed the views of certain people and say, it should be inside.
yeah. Well,
Do you
and
have the water thing inside?
there's no electricity for us in that one, but we did bring it to the
There's
fall
plugs all
event.
over the place.
Yeah.
It's
We
a
did-
fire station.
We did take it to
Fall festival.
Fall Festival. Worked just fine.
Is it a
Okay.
younger demographic at the fire department?
Yeah, a lot of children.
Yeah.
And what they do is they get, and we may do something similar. What I liked was they had little fire hats to put on the kids.
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking, we could get a white construction hat
Yeah.
and stick our logo on it. You know, just print them
Sure,
out on
sure.
one of our printers here, and put those on them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we would do it at the same event because then you're basically, you know,
Yeah.
you're,
Competing.
trying to
yeah,
show that.
and you want to be friends and
Yeah.
not.
No.
But there's other places where that might play out.
Yeah.
So
Well, because I was wondering if maybe kids want to see fire department.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
a truck on.
Yeah.
Stand there.
well, and there was
I don't know if there's.
No
Food
kid grows
there
up
or-
thinking they want to be a water operator.
Yeah. No.
the inside of that booth. The inside of the fire station is so busy. It wasn't like I needed to get people to come over.
No. They just
They
had to
came
get
in, turned
yeah.
right, and they were right there with
Yeah.
us. So
But you can also go outside on the ground where the trucks are. Out the back, where all the trucks are out back,
yeah,
where the kids do the fire hose and they
Yeah.
put out the flame.
Yeah.
And all that stuff, and that's a place where you could have your water thing out there.
Yeah.
And
So-
there is electricity.
so have two of them or
And,
something.
Well, if you had one outside, that's enough. Everybody that goes inside the station goes outside.
Yeah,
They all go outside. They all want to see the fire trucks, take pictures on the truck. and,
Yeah.
I mean, I go to them almost every year.
yeah.
Last couple of years I haven't, but
Chris,
kids go all over.
do you know where they promote their event?
Well, I think a lot of their stuff, it's a well-established event. I think there's a certain amount of word of mouth they've got
Well,
nowadays.
Well, then they put the
The city-
big placards out.
And the city now has, if you've noticed, changed the signs on Rancho Santa Fe,
Yeah,
the Welcome to San Marcos
Yeah.
sign, and they're changing the one on San Marcos Boulevard, and it's gonna have a place you can put a 2x3 sign.
For
And they
upcoming
just let
events?
the chamber do it for their events, so
Nice.
they'll definitely let us do
all right.
it. Getting some signs out and around town
Yeah,
is a lot.
yeah.
Mhm.
Water Academy, you know, water, I don't know if I call it an academy though for a sign. Water fair, something, you have to change the name to make it more of a water academy. I don't wanna
Right.
go to water
Right.
academy. I
Sounds
don't
like
want
a lot of
school,
work.
I'm out of school,
Yeah.
you know, it's something that says it a little bit better.
Well, and we'll talk about once I present. We're coming up on 65 years, and we might have an event, and there might be different ways to do that type of
Mhm.
event that's more like a fair.
And we could give away a Jeep.
We could, although Tanis is kind of looking for it. Can
Yeah,
you
Trying to
show
come
the
up with the money for it.
open house?
Surplus property.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay, so Speakers Bureau. So typically I do this quarterly. Reach out to the service clubs in the
I'm sorry,
area.
let me go back, I don't know if you're gonna go back to them, you talk about where you, advertise this. I would think that one of the ways you could, in early fall, do through the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Have them in their email blast put it out, because you might get some owners of businesses that are interested. So just a thought, and I don't think they charge it like $25.
Yeah, yeah.
So just a thought, Chamber of Commerce, they do their email to all of their 102.
Yeah. Is that all we got?
No, but I always joke. They have a lot of names, but they don't have a lot of businesses.
Yeah, right, they
Yeah,
send me
like
one,
that.
I'm not a member.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly, yeah.
Right.
They have a lot of names,
I
but
do
it
open
does,
it though.
but it does go out to, yeah, is that what's going on there? People do look at it,
Yeah.
so that's well worthwhile, I think, and it's pretty cheap.
So all the different topics we can do at Speakers Bureau, just overviews, supply, Big Delta, conservation, desal, reliability, wastewater, recycled water, landscaping, and I think this for 2019, the events was the Lake San Marcos Kiwanis picked up on us, and then both Palomar Estates East and Palomar Estates West asked us to come out, but I think those were both in the spring when I pushed it.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the other one that you're looking for? Rotary. Rotary will have us out. They had us out a while back, and I think Director Martin was double booked, and he was hoping to change the date, but Kelly Cruz didn't want to change the date, and it left me kind of standing there holding the bag. I asked her to change the date, and she said, "I'm not changing the date. Please show up." So
There you go.
yeah.
So what, from the committee's perspective, what role do you see the directors playing in the Speakers Bureau?
I think that bringing a director there brings more of
Formality.
a show to them, because they want someone that they know, that they may be elected, maybe they voted for, maybe they hate, maybe they voted against, but and can answer political questions. that
Absolutely.
Do get asked.
Yeah.
Political questions do get asked, and staff has to back off and
Right.
say, well, the board makes those decisions.
And when we were at Kiwanis, well, there was a few of those that were
Yeah.
definitely Director Martin to take, where it was
Yeah.
more of a policy thing than it
Yeah, and it's
was.
better for us to do it, I think.
Yeah.
It serves the purpose of hearing from an elected versus a staffer.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think together, you don't mean by yourself.
No, I mean together.
Yeah, we go together.
Oh, yeah,
You
no,
or,
I'm not, no, I
Barbara's
mean,
gonna go.
yeah, I mean, no, the staff needs to do all the coordination and
Be
to set
there.
up, but we need
Yeah.
to be there just to answer that, and I think people appreciate
yeah,
that you took the time to go out there and do that.
so that's where I was going. So procedurally, Chris's group does the outreach.
Yeah.
They respond to Chris.
Right.
And then we can reach out either through me or directly to find out which board member
Yeah,
or
or
members
board members, yeah.
Yeah.
want to attend.
Yep.
Being cognizant of, you don't want multiple board, three or more board
Right,
members.
right,
to
right,
an
right,
event,
right.
so-
Yeah.
Well, I think if Chris sends
And
out a
it's
thing,
a,
like he did with that one, he said, I'm going to see the Kiwanis, if you're interested, and I said back, yes, I'm interested.
Yeah.
So,
and it's a non-per diem event, so it's not like it's money.
And if three of you respond, yes, I'd like to attend,
First two,
okay,
Right.
that's,
Yeah,
that's
that's
fine,
true.
that's fair.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
sorry, you missed
first
it.
two, yeah,
Yeah.
can't do
Get a
that.
towel for
Everybody knows you can't.
finger at the butt.
I've typically, and maybe this is something you guys want to give me some through Glenn, give me some direction on, but usually I send it to the president, and then if it's in somebody's division, then I send it to that one as
Right.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the best way to do it.
Okay.
yeah, a lot of the events aren't geographically
Yeah, right.
everywhere, like D-cells everywhere.
Right,
You know,
right. Well, if
conservation.
I'm going to
Or
Palomar
Kiwanis
State
or
or
Oh, I see what
West,
you're saying, if
you
the
know.
host, the
Yeah.
host,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, but you go to Palomar West, Palomar East, sure.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so booths and street fairs. So there's Director Snell up there. That's the outside at the combined Because I Care Firehouse event,
Uh-huh.
and you can kind of tell there's just not the same activity.
It was terrible outside, it was
Yeah.
terrible.
Well, they've divided those up, and so it makes so much better sense now.
Yeah.
But I think they tried to consolidate for certain reasons, and
Uh-huh.
it didn't work, and they changed it. So that's good.
What actually happened, the fire department tried to help, because that's all through the senior center.
Right.
Right next door.
Tried to.
And they were trying to help the senior center, because they were having it, no one was showing up.
Right.
So they said, why don't you combine it with ours, and we get people in.
Yeah.
Oh, people just walk through those booths to
Right.
get to the firehouse.
Right.
The
Right.
kids are there.
Right. It's
You
a
know
kid
what?
event,
Yeah.
and then you got. I was next to a person that was trying to enroll people into healthcare for seniors, and they're taking his stuff. He's got giveaways.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you know, good
Uh,
lord.
They always
it's-
take giveaways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Earth Day at Chick-fil-A, There's the
Earth Day
booth
at Chick-fil-A.
up in the upper right corner.
I know, but we attended Earth Day for Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A's they do a lot of outreach.
Yeah,
you
they
know,
do.
they
They're
They
big.
get a lot of
They're
people.
good.
They
They're
do,
good, man.
and you know they market their stuff. They do a lot of stuff. I gotta give them credit.
And
And,
do you let
uh,
us know when these happen? I don't remember you telling us about the Chick-fil-A.
Well, Chick-fil-A was over a year ago, so that's an old photo. So
Okay,
in
but a
fact,
year
I don't
ago-
even think I
but a
put
year
it
ago
on
you
my
didn't let
list.
us know.
Yeah, I did.
Did you?
It would have gone out in my outreach updates to you. That I'm going.
Although
Here's
it's
an
usually
event.
after the fact.
No,
We
I
have
give
one
you guys
more-
ahead of
we
time.
have one more follower.
Well, there's that piece of it. Part of it is just running.
And then at
total
the
stuff.
end is like, here's what's coming for
Upcoming
you,
events.
and if you
Keep
want to
reading.
come,
I can't get through that.
Keep reading all the words.
Maybe we'll
Yeah,
put that
one
in at
new
the
member.
beginning.
maybe you know what? If you want me to put that at the beginning,
Yeah.
Would it be helpful?
I can do that.
More
That's no big
exciting.
deal. Here's
That's
what's
the
coming.
teaser. We want you to have to slog through
Yeah.
this to get
Oh,
to
that
the
is like,
punchline.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
2,000
three people-
followers on Facebook and 1,000 on Twitter.
And 6
Yeah,
people
Mike
click
watched it
on this, and
on
5 of them were staff people.
Oh, there's that
That was
cynicism. That cynicism's creeping in.
Oh, that's it.
The there's the booth at
Street fair.
Street Fair
Oh, that was
and
great. You
the-
see that water feature brings a lot of people. Have you ever
well,
noticed
and the nice thing is Jose's there, and Jose's the muscle that takes it in his truck.
Yeah.
It really doesn't go in our van, and he ferries that thing over, fills it, empties it. It's just nice to have Jose there. Plus, he speaks Spanish,
For those,
and
yeah.
we give away the succulents, and that guy knows his plants,
Yep.
so that's nice to have. And there's the horse at the Horse Heritage Festival with the bandana. So there's
Horse
like the
Heritage.
bandana we were giving out.
Is that the one actually worn by the horse? Or is it
No,
okay.
I wouldn't do that.
I
Have
don't know.
horse
Oh,
slobber
these
on
are
it.
for us?
Yeah,
Look at this.
Presents?
A party
Yeah.
gift, Don.
right?
Look at that. Just-
Yeah,
I-
but usually you
I
get a
was
party
looking for
gift
one
that
of
means you
these.
didn't win.
Yippee, you okay?
made in-
I'll give you one of these in a minute.
Can we hide that it was made in China?
Is it saying that?
Yeah,
Probably a
right.
tariff on it.
Right.
I was looking for one of these the other day.
Well, now you got one.
Now I got one. I can rob that bank next week.
Right.
Why would you be looking for one of these?
I was sanding in my shop.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
wanted
have
to
a
cover
face
up.
mask, so I
Okay.
ended up having to take an old T-shirt and put over my nose.
So these are the ones we typically do. Grand Spring Festival, San Marcos Chamber, that's in April. National Night Out is something we do with, it's the sheriff.
Now, do you do the one in down here, or do you do the one up in San Leo?
I did the one in San Alejo Hills.
Okay.
But they've had it downtown at Connors Park on San Marcos
Yeah.
Boulevard.
Yeah.
But they switched it over, and I think they may move it
Oh, I
back
thought
and
they had
forth.
both.
No, well maybe they did, but what they invited me to this time was San Alejo Hills,
Well,
and that was there was people
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Whereas Connors Park has such a small parking lot.
Yeah.
There's not that many people that come there, and most of them that are there because their kids in soccer practice or something.
Where's the venue in San Leo?
uh,
Ball fields there?
right in the
Town square.
park where it's kind of between the ball fields.
Yeah.
There's kind of
Yeah, I know
know.
what you're talking
Oh, it's not in
And
the
they-
town square?
No, it's over by
It's by the
What's-
ballpark.
yeah, sets of ballparks, and there's a little pavilion up there,
Yeah.
and we were able to bring our stuff down. And the nice thing was
Ballpark's up there.
they pulled the blockades out, and we were able to drive the truck all the way down, and then drive the truck down
Yeah.
and reload our stuff. Because if you hadn't, that would have been a little dicey.
dicey.
Yeah. Junior Rangers. I know it sounds like it's just kids, but it's really parents and kids.
Well,
And that's over at Jack's Pond. That's through the city. Fire department open house was in October. I was telling Director Hernandez, October's a busy month for us. San Marcos Harvest Festival was a couple weekends ago.
and how's that attended?
That San Marcos Harvest Festival, that one was good. It wasn't as crazy as last year. You have times when there's people at the booth and it's overwhelming, and I didn't ever have that feeling that, they were just packing up against our booth. But I just think it wasn't, it just wasn't as busy for whatever reason. And you never can necessarily
Yeah.
tell, like,
Where was
why.
that at, Chris?
That's the festival. It's on
Via Veracruz?
Via Veracruz.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and it was busy, but I remember it being busier the year before. And we gave away 350 succulents and 200 of these bags.
So that's just the fall version of the Grand Spring.
Yeah,
Festival.
they just changed the name. I'm not exactly sure. why.
Just a question on the succulent thing. I've never understood the reason why we give those out.
Well, we're trying to get people to make a change for their landscaping, and we're not gonna do their whole yard.
Use more drought tolerant stuff.
Yeah, they're drought
Introduce
tolerant.
them to a species of plant they may not be familiar with.
And the downside now is that people know, now it's an expected thing. Where's my succulent?
They have 6 kids, they set them up at different times.
No,
to pick
not
them
so
up.
much, but there's
get
there's
sick of
ladies there that are like, oh, I need a new succulent, and I came for the succulent. You're thinking you came to the fair because we got a succulent?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you.
Yeah,
There's
good.
people that come for the succulent. And then we got Because I Care coming up on November 2nd. So
What about, do we do the double peak challenge?
is that like a
Race?
hike or something like that?
Yeah,
I have not done
it's a
that.
hike and there's a lot of people.
Do they have booths and?
They do have booths.
Okay, I didn't know. I knew they had an
I
event. I
don't
didn't
think,
know. it
being
was-
water, we could give out water
And these,
in plastic bottles,
Reusable.
single use.
right?
That people don't wanna carry that if they're on a long walk. They want something light they can drink.
Well, but we could give it to them at the end or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, yeah.
When they're done. So there's just some of the displays.
But I'll tell you what, that display just means so much to have it out.
The bottom
You
left
should
one?
use it, you should use it as often as you can.
Yeah, when we've
People
got
like
power,
looking
we
at
do
it.
it. The good-looking kid in the upper right-hand corner there.
Don't we have a little electric generator?
I don't know if the field ops does. I don't think we have one in the building.
I'm just saying, maybe that's something we could get, a little electric one.
Yeah.
They might. I don't know.
We'll
I could
ask.
ask.
Yeah.
I mean, just a thought, I mean, it's well worth, people come just to see that, kids love it. I
Yeah,
mean,
it certainly draws them in, and the parents come with them. And
Yeah,
It does. Go ahead, Ann. So standard booth setups, the canopy, the table, we got a tablecloth, banners, we got information, giveaways, mystery faucet if we got power and can get water. Go ahead,
How
Ann.
much water does it take? Do you know?
Not so much. We got barked out one year because we were dumping it out and
Yeah.
got, you told me to not to waste water and you're dumping
well,
it.
you can't reuse it.
I'm just saying I got grief.
Should have poured it on the person.
Right? So those are those
Or a
banners
shower
that we
case.
take along. I like them.
Yeah, good banners.
Yeah. Go ahead. Ann. So partners, more smaller type things. So state of the city, meet your elected officials, volunteer appreciation events. We usually will provide the centerpieces for those. Farmers market, I'm going to touch on that.
Okay, what do you think of the farmer's market? I don't, is that going over or is that died?
I'll come to that one.
Okay.
Blood drives and then Boys and Girls Club San Marcos. Go ahead, Ann, and we can get to.
You need Boys and Girls Club.
So there's the blood drive. Good looking girl right there. The one on
Is that
the.
one of our employees?
That's my daughter,
Oh,
who showed up to our blood drive.
well, that was nice.
Yeah. The Grays event at the flower fields. This was fun in that it was put on by the Farm Bureau. And it was a Grays event. It was at the flower fields. And we were
In
there
Carlsbad.
because we thought we were delivering all the recycled water to the flower fields. But it turns out that it actually really doesn't go there. But, staff didn't know.
What's that nice centerpiece that I haven't seen before?
That's the one that was given away at the Boys and Girls Club with the Phantom of the Opera stuff. So that's a handsome guy and a very attractive mayor.
Yeah.
This is the farmer's market, and so those were the bags we got from the county water authority.
Mhm.
And so what we would do was put in our flyer for the water academy and say, hey, here's the water academy, here's this bag. And I liked how much we were a hot ticket. I mean, because people show up to that thing and they didn't
Yeah.
bring a bag, and the vendor doesn't necessarily have a bag, so you bring these bags to it. You're the exact person they want to see, so you're the right person at the right time with the right thing. and it's fun because you're giving them exactly what they want. So we got some more with the kids' artwork on it. That
Yeah.
we'll do that. So you get one of these too for when you go grocery shopping.
I don't do them.
You don't go grocery shopping?
I go grocery shopping, I don't use a bag.
What do you do with it?
Use
You
it.
just-
Just carry it on my
He
shoulder.
uses plastic.
yeah.
I use it like,
He said,
Don't sell-
he said paper, plastic, it was plastic,
I-
please.
yeah, I put it in the cart and then I leave the cart in the parking lot.
You don't
Well,
want
Can I ask a
I
question?
think
Yeah.
you're serious.
See the ones that the County Water Authority give that, you notice the size difference?
The what?
Size difference, completely different, they're a little bit longer, they're a little more useful, in my opinion. No offense against our comic strips.
It's a bag.
Yeah, well, this you don't take to a grocery store, it's not big enough.
I'm
they were
sure.
happy to have them.
They're happy.
Okay.
You want bigger bags?
That one.
Yeah, and we're
They charge you $1
trying
at
to
the grocery store for
keep the
that.
price down on this too, and not give away the store.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but that's fun to do.
I don't know, wouldn't it be better to have something about Vallecito's down here rather than just a little tag on top?
Well, it says Vallecito's on it.
Well,
There's
and
no
when,
tag on
when
top.
I'm out there giving this thing out,
Water Authority.
President Martin, I'm wearing my Vallecito shirt. I got a Vallecito's hat on, and I go, I'm Chris from the Vallecito's Water District. Would you like a grocery bag for?
Sure, and I get that. At the time, it's very apparent. But when they take that thing and they leave,
Yeah.
they've forgotten about you. They've forgotten about
How
everything.
can
They
you
get,
forget about it?
they get to use that bag after,
Yeah,
and other people get to see it at the grocery store.
yeah.
The grocery store, you'd rather than seeing Vallecito's water on the side
So
of a
your
nice
feedback
bag.
is you'd like our name to be a little bit more prominent.
On a nicer bag that people actually use. I can't tell you how many of these bags I have, and now I don't take them from anybody anymore, because I got
I don't think,
3 nice ones from Toyota,
Yeah.
really nice.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, these are the bags I'm gonna use, they're nice,
you bought a car from
they're
them,
heavy.
right?
Well, yeah, no, but I'm just saying, I use it because of what it is. The bags they give away at conventions and stuff
Yeah.
that we take, throw them away.
Yeah.
When I run out of garbage bags, I use them and throw the garbage away. Sags, they're not cheap, I know
I
that.
think this is actually the right size for grocery. You don't want anything bigger because they get too heavy.
Yeah. Those old ladies can't carry that big things, Al.
I'm not an old lady. I
Well,
don't carry
that's
a
why
bigger
you
one.
can get a bigger bag.
Okay, I'm just
Hey,
saying something
here's
to
your
say
Toyota bag.
more about us.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit more prominent than the name.
Yeah, prominent and a nice, like they have an avocado there. I mean, brought to you by what? That gives a whole message right there.
Yeah, but I mean, do
By
you see
water.
San Diego County Water Authority on it? You don't.
No, 'cause nobody.
At the very bottom there.
Right, but I mean,
the only
their,
people that know who they
their
are
logo's buried.
is when they pay their tax bill. At the
Right.
end, they go, oh, my home,
Yeah,
I
I
pay
didn't
this
see
money
that.
too.
Their logo's
But
buried.
you know, something with a little ocean on it or something, rising water. Just a thought.
Uh-huh.
So landscape workshops, so we can do these. We do these with Green Thumb. Green Thumb's been a little scatterbrained lately, and we've offered several times, and they haven't taken us up on it. I
Well,
don't
they
know
have
what
their
to tell
own.
you about
They
that.
have their own workshops. You know.
Mrs. Green Jeans.
They got a
did
new guy.
part-time job
They
or
got a new
something?
guy, Steve Gatto, who is quite the consultant in Southern California. He's now an employee 3 days a week, and so he's given work.
For the benefits? Don't worry about us, we're in a meeting.
It's fine.
So, and we did the 4 workshops. I think some of you saw it, where on the Monday evenings we actually had the Water Smart landscape classes, and we
I
hosted
saw
that.
people showing up.
Yeah, and the fun part is a couple of those folks, we will get to see their landscape at some point. They're just not done with it.
Uh-huh.
So that'll be exciting to see because they're in our service area.
And they usually go into their contests.
Yes,
So-
but because this one was a really do-it-yourself thing versus hire a consultant to just come in and replace
Yeah,
it.
right.
It takes some time. So
Yeah.
school education, there's the poster contest with the board. There's that's Junior Rangers on the upper right, and there's Tanis on the left with her hands on history, and we go out to that as well. So, and then for school education, we do for grade school in class, there's a lot of STEAM or STEM events. We do tours of the district's facilities for 5th graders.
That's a
we
real
go up to
argument there,
Jack's
isn't it?
Pond. What's that?
Whether STEAM or STEM is correct. A lot of people prefer STEM.
It was STEM, and then somewhere along the line, it got turned into
Yeah,
STEAM.
the arts people said, what about us?
Yeah.
And we
yeah.
said, who cares?
Yeah,
Mm,
so,
no.
Oh, we do, I'm sorry, we have a
Yeah.
third grade thing.
The Heritage Park, the poster contest, and then for junior and senior high school college things, we did a future fair. We did one over at San Marcos High, and then more recently at Mission Hills High. And I think you guys saw the videos of us where we were out and we had the electric sign, water jobs here, and talking to students about
And you tell us
careers.
about all these beforehand so we could go.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I will start reading them.
But you know what? I will flip flop that so you see what's coming. Because
That's my fault. I was always disappointed. Just getting too many people.
now you could be disappointed at the end of the message.
Right.
At the beginning. Okay, I'll defer your disappointment.
I'll be excited.
so school education. Go ahead, Ann. So that's Bridget there, Richie, myself behind the baseball player.
Which one's
Over.
Richie?
Right under the word
Richie is
district?
right under the word district.
Is that what we would call an official bicycle shirt?
Yeah.
Really? We have those?
Yeah.
So interesting story about Richie. The Water Authority has this program called the Faces of the Water Industry, and it has to do with veterans. How many military veterans are in the water industry? So they've gone out to all the districts and said, give us a list of your people that are also U.S. military veterans. And they created a little story on each one, and then every month they put something out to highlight. So this month, Rondi's in there,
Yeah.
and Richie's in there.
Really?
Rondi says
Yeah,
Vice
Ray.
Water District, Richie, blah, 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 Helix Water District. They put the wrong water district for Richie.
The bastard.
That
So
ain't
he's
my
our
mistake.
guy, and it
Yeah,
says Helix.
I think that was deliberate.
They
Wait.
sent something to us, and we proofed it, and it said Vallecitos. We said, go ahead, and when they
Right.
printed it, it says
Right.
Helix Water District. on it.
Right.
Have you asked Richie if he's been out interviewing?
I was just joking
Maybe
with him in
he
the
knows
hall. I said
something.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody forgot to.
Told him it was nice working with you, Richie.
Yeah.
So, STEAM event where we were at Discovery Elementary back in January. Go ahead, Ann. School education where we've got the kids coming here, doing the actual tours.
How often do we do that, Chris?
That one's kind of a depends, and we try. You know, you're only gonna get probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're gonna get about 8 tours. Part of it is it's disruptive for Eric's group. Eric does the collections demonstration, and he's basically taking the guys offline to do that. And so we try not to impact his work group too much. That's not as tough for Sean's group because they're just kind of right there anyway.
Right.
So just trying to be respectful to collections and not overwhelm staff with the tours. So, and usually get them, it's funny because you'll get them early November, so we'll see if we get one. Maybe one in September, and then a lot of them seem to be in the spring. It's like after the holidays are over, and then maybe the schools have achieved what they need to achieve because there's all that testing they have to do. That's when they seem to come. So, you know, February, March.
They talk to
April.
us. They tell us the dates. They'd like
Yeah.
to come.
Well, we schedule it with them, and,
Yeah.
and we've got, you know, before we book anything, we got to make sure
Yeah, right.
there's not a big, and that has happened where there's things that there's work the district needs to do that precludes having a tour.
Okay.
How much are we paying for busing the kids to Jack's Pond?
$75.
Each bus, how many buses are there? How much,
Usually
how much
two.
are we committed to?
Usually 2. So
2 a year or 2 a month or 2 a day?
I could get you. Can I get you a total and give you a
Sure.
real answer? I'll
Yes.
just email it to you. It's not a
Just,
heck of a
just
lot.
curious.
Yeah.
okay.
And we pay for busing out to Tanis's place for hands-on history.
Mm.
Although sometimes, is it Discovery? Is it just,
Discovery Elementary?
no, I think it's Twin Oaks Elementary. Sometimes they just walk.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Oh,
right
yeah,
there.
they can walk.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
So the amount we spend on buses is pretty small. It's $75, and you know, I'd probably say 12 times, so 12
Oh, okay.
times 75.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Don't use that
Is it a school bus?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
we
a school
we
bus.
just pay for their
Yeah.
use of the school bus.
Yeah. I think that's it. So, with discussion, planning, I got some takeaways for the bags and,
Okay.
So we've taken some notes, we've heard some thoughts. If there's anything,
Yeah.
anything else you'd like us to see us do?
No,
No, I think that's it.
I think that's great. I think you're doing a really good job.
thank you. I will probably boost, Speakers Bureau, but not, to try and boost it right now. It's gonna get into November and things are gonna go dark, and then it's
Yeah.
gonna get into Christmas and things are gonna go dark, so it's probably best for me to boost
After-
Speakers Bureau after the new year,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't look for anything until then, but.
Makes sense.
And if you guys got, you know, if you have leads on somebody that wants to have us come out, let me know.
And next year is an even numbered year, so there may be a higher demand by some people that wanna see elected officials
Yeah.
get out there and tell the district story, so.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great,
We'll
look
be in
forward to it.
touch.
Thank you, Chris.
All right.
So this is the type of item that's, we're not gonna take this to the board.
No, just information.
Yeah.
No, I
Great
think that
job.
was good. That was very
You
informative.
sure you don't want these bags?
You're actually busy.
No,
with
I'm
that.
good. I'm good on bags.
How
You like the-
how
like the
gonna carry-
bandana,
How
but
you
not
gonna
the
carry
bag?
your bandana home without a
Yeah.
bag?
I'm gonna wrap it around my
I'm gonna wrap it
forehead.
around my throat using a sling.
Rambo
Hey.
style, right?
Yeah.
You brought up the use of, we now have 2 qualified operators for drones. Now, are you using them in your outreach, or are you using them strictly to look at pipes on the ground?
Oh, it's both. So
One.
the drone program, it's not up and running yet, but we have more than 2. I don't know how
Oh,
many
yeah.
people
Yeah.
get certified.
Oh, how many people have you seen?
There's probably half a dozen or so.
Oh man, we should have known.
Because we have, no, that's not for,
Not for fun.
because some of, how many of your folks?
2.
2 of Chris's folks, and we have operations has some. I don't know if engineering sent anybody.
Yes.
How
So we
many
have
drones
different-
do we own?
None. yet.
None.
So we've tried to send up with 1, and we're gonna go through a period of test flying some.
Yeah.
We may buy a cheaper one to give people something to play with,
Something around.
and then
To
go get a
crash.
real nice one.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Because it's
Get it.
I had 2 crashers. I mean, 2 that I bought early on. One was the size of my hand. That was the first one.
Yeah.
That I could do around the house and bang against the wall and it was okay. And then the next one I got was about $150.
Yeah.
Now I got a $600 one that I really enjoy.
Nice.
Oh really?
What brand do you have?
For me? It's an Alacar, it's a French brand. I don't know, I happened to get it at, Fry's, when Fry's used to have quite a selection of them, they don't anymore.
Yeah, they're going down.
Yeah, so the key with those is batteries.
Yeah.
You have
The
to get-
battery
you have
life?
to get- Yeah, you have to get extra batteries.
Yep.
Because they'll only last, unless you get the really high-end $2,000 or $3,000 one, they only, last 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes at the longest.
Right.
So 20 minutes doesn't give you long by the time you get it up, if you're gonna look at tanks and stuff, so you gotta have extra batteries, so that's something I always look for.
Yeah.
And you're right, and for you guys, you need to get a license,
Yep.
because you're doing commercially,
Yeah.
so that
That's,
and insurance,
yeah.
the insurance is separate on
Yeah,
that.
so we've been talking with Aqua JPIA, we've been talking with our risk
'cause
manager and our
Aqua's still-
attorney's office, and there's all sorts of rules with this drone operation. You don't just set a guy out there in the field flying over somebody's house, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
basically a really bad idea.
Oh, yeah, well, you can't fly them over people, because I gotta do weddings,
Yeah.
but you can't fly them over with those people.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really do what I want it to do,
You can't fly. Well,
can't fly over people.
I don't know why they're doing it at the concerts I'm going to. They're flying all over the place.
Oh, yeah, but they're doing it illegally.
Oh.
But you can't fly over people because they might just come down on them.
Right.
Ah,
No, and that
concerts, they're all loaded. They don't know what's
They
going
won't
on.
feel it. Yeah.
Oh, look at that, Bob.
happens. Yeah, I mean, those kind of things, people bring their own, people sit outside the concert and do it.
Sure.
It was just something I thought about the amount of it. So,
Really?
People go crazy.
All right, well, thank you, Chris, and
Okay,
Chris, it's
great
great to sit
job.
here, and,
Very interesting, thank you.
Thanks for
And
having me.
thanks for all you do,
Thanks.
You betcha.
I appreciate it. All right. Single-use plastic water bottle prohibition.
yeah, so
Yeah.
the next 2 items were actually referred back to this committee from the board.
Uh-huh.
So we started here, went to the board
Came
kicked
back.
it back and said, go figure this out. So it was back on September 4th that the board considered the plastic bottle ban, And in their words, they directed it back to the committee to develop a policy focusing on eliminating plastic water bottles, cups, and utensils at the district office, including information regarding the costs involved. So the board was conscious of how much is this gonna cost us if we do away from it. So we use, I wouldn't say a lot, but a fair amount. We use plastic water bottles, these right here. And as a rule, we don't promote the use of these. We're not giving these away because it's contradictory to our brand and our mission to give away, bottled water. We have installed water bottle filling stations.
Oh, those?
We provide these at events, and we're trying to
Yep.
encourage people to use our product. So this is a kind of a last resort, but you can't argue with the convenience of them at time. And depending on how this goes, we probably won't see these at our committee meetings anymore. We have plastic beverage containers, red Solo cups, things like that. Plastic utensils, we use those a fair amount, and things like plastic wraps, saran wrap, that type of stuff that we use for various things. We have primarily 5 what I'll call user groups. There's single-use plastics that are used by employees that they provide themselves. So if they come to work with a plastic bottle, we're not gonna develop a policy
No.
that says you can't bring this in. That's
Agreed.
But that's a group that we're probably not gonna touch. There's the single-use plastics used by employees during normal work hours, which are provided by the district. So for example, in the lunchroom downstairs and some of the coffee stations, we do provide plasticware. There's plastic spoons and forks and things like that for employees.
And
to
when we have
lunch.
our luncheons and those kinds of things.
All those, yeah. So that's the second category. Third category is the single-use plastics by employees and directors at formal district events such as board meetings, committee meetings, workshops, things like that.
Right.
A fourth category would be the plastics provided during like training events. We use the training room a lot here, and it's not just for district personnel. We'll have all the water districts come over. Just a couple weeks ago, we had Senate Bill 998, which is the water shutoff bill.
Yeah.
They rotates through the county, so we hosted that one. And we'll use it at events like that. So it's not really just for employees, it's for outside people, but it's not for the general public.
Yep.
And then the last one is that single-use plastics provided to members of the public during events, particularly like public outreach events. We don't do this at public outreach events.
Right.
We don't go to the street fair and give away whatever brand this is, Kirkland water bottles. So we're not doing that mostly because of the brand. But we do have utensils. So when people come for the Water Academy, you notice we don't have plastic water bottles, but there's plastic utensils
Yep.
and
Mhm.
knives
Saw
for
the
the
cups there
cream
early.
cheese and stuff like that. So I guess I had one clarifying question I want to get from, at least from the committee's perspective. And remember, you guys are advisory, and this will eventually go back to the board. So are we doing this primarily for the public perception, which would mean we want to focus on the outward-facing stuff, or are we trying to do it to be more holistic, which would mean even the back-of-house operations that the public will never see, we're going to do that as well? So you don't need to answer right now, but be thinking about that maybe at the end. And then I read the quote from the board, and it says it's specified at the district office. So are we interested in expanding beyond the 4 walls of the district office here and talk about it other places? So for example, are we talking about it, we provide water bottles to customers that are experiencing water outages. We had a water main break, we had to shut off the valves. This 24 homes are out for 8 hours. We'll go deliver a pallet of water out there that the customers can just go up and grab the water bottles. I think that's a good practice to continue. There are alternative products. They're about 4 to 5 times as expensive as this. An equal quantity in a cardboard box is about 4 to 5 times what this would cost.
Yep.
So, but that's one of those, yes, it's the public, it's an outward-facing service, but it's not the Water Academy type of thing. And I think the people there are just so happy to have the water bottles that they're probably not gonna complain that they came in plastic as opposed to cardboard. But I certainly wanted to get the committee's ideas on that. We also provide these, make these available to the work release crews, so the women inmate prisoners that do work for various water districts and public agencies. Within our contract, we're required to provide them snacks. So if you go over to the warehouse, we have a cabinet full of snacks, and often people say, "Where are all those snacks for? For employees?" They're not for employees, they're for giving to the inmates. and we also provide them with water bottles. That's not in the contract, but it's been in our practice. Our practices to do that. District field crews. So when the crews are out in the field, we don't give them water bottles, but sometimes they'll just grab the stash that's out there. So if there's a water main break, they'll be using those water bottles that they put out there for the customers, but they can use them too. The board direction didn't say anything about anything outside here, so that's something I probably want to hear from the committee as well. So before I turn it over to you guys for maybe a discussion, I guess my recommendation, I would say we should generally prohibit single-use water bottle purchases with 2 exceptions: water main breaks, water outages in general, and the work release crews. That's the only thing we would buy water bottles for. So our warehouse would stock water bottles for that purpose, no other purpose. So they wouldn't be here at committee meetings. We would never put it out at a board meeting or anywhere else where the public would see it. Same thing with beverage containers, the solo cups. Let's just do away with them. There's easy to find replacements.
Yeah, the paper cup they gave me is
Yeah.
perfect.
So that's fine. It just became the norm to go with the plastic cups. But if it's an image thing and we're trying to make a difference, that's an easy fix. I suggest we get rid of those. And then same thing with the utensils. For all the public, I'll call them public outreach events. Water Academy is a great example. Let's just do away with plastic there. We'll have probably a compostable thing, something that people could use once, throw away, goes in the landfill and it composts away. It's no big deal. The back of house stuff, so should we use compostable stuff in the employee break room? That's kind of where I want to see where the committee and ultimately the board, how extensive and pervasive do they want this policy to be? So with that, I'll turn it over to the 2 of you to get your thoughts.
Well, the water outage and the metering people, fine, I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
Personally.
To continue to supply
Yes.
these.
The paper at the board meeting instead of the thing,
Get rid of those?
I think that
No
works.
brainer.
That
Yeah.
works for me.
Okay.
The combustibles in the lunchroom.
Compostable, not combustibles. I don't want combustible silver plastic.
Compostable?
Com-
Compost.
compostable,
Compostable, yeah. I think that works. And again, this was primarily just for the office and the perception to the community about that we're doing.
Okay, want to make sure the public gets a good image. When
Yeah,
they walk
good
in,
image
they're not
to the
seeing
district.
plastic and plastic.
Yeah.
and- okay.
Yeah, that's what my belief is.
Okay,
I think it's foolish, but let the board make a decision on it. What's the cost gonna be?
well, so we don't know yet, but what I want to do is get an idea, how big is this net we're casting?
Yeah.
If we're saying, hey, it's more for the public perception, it's going to be very small. The difference between compostable utensils and plastic utensils, just for when we have Water Academy, is almost nothing. The big issue is these.
Yeah.
And I forget the number, I think I brought it with me, I don't remember the numbers, but we spent thousands of dollars on water bottles. And if you looked at last year's data, if we stopped buying plastic water bottles and bought the same volumes of water in cardboard, we would have
4
cost
times.
us about $13,000 more per year
Yeah.
to buy that. If all we're talking about is no more water bottles at the committee meetings,
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. My exercise class, they have the $1 water bottle if you forgot your water.
Yeah.
$1. And if you did, not a big deal. Throw $1 in the jar. Then they went to the containers.
Yeah.
$3 a bottle.
Yeah.
Those containers have been there for the last 7 months. I
Nobody's-
don't think there's been anyone.
Yeah.
I took one. And I only had $2. I didn't have the other $1, so I had to owe them the next time.
Yeah, have you
But-
ever paid that?
No.
Yeah, I have paid it. I have paid it back.
No.
But it's just the price point is just too tall for the containers, for the cardboard containers. So the elimination, you don't have to worry about it.
Okay, so here we're focused more on the I wouldn't say perception, I don't want to diminish it, but that initial perception by the public when they come in, we don't want them to see all these
Yes.
plastics.
Mhm.
That's easy, so I don't think we need to make a formal policy, although the direction was the policy, nor do we need an ordinance. I think I could just change the practices. I could work with
Fine.
purchasing and say, don't buy change, you know, or how you provision certain things, so.
Well, however, do we wanna, advertise that we've done this?
That would be the reason you'd wanna elevate it to a policy, cause then it gets,
Yeah, then it gets out to the community about what the good things we're doing
Right.
towards the elimination of plastic.
right?
But we're
And
not doing anything.
yeah, and the problem with that is they're gonna say you didn't go far enough,
No, we didn't do anything.
yeah,
Well, we have
The
done
board, the
something.
board meetings, we don't have
Well,
three
board
people
meetings,
that drink
cabinet,
water.
yeah.
committee meetings, all those things, we are doing something, Hal.
Yeah.
The question
That's
is,
a case of water a month.
the question is the perception that we are doing something. And, you know, are we doing enough? Well, no, we're not doing enough, but you can never do enough.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that the goal is always moving further down the field, so you're never gonna accomplish that. But I think if we have, well, let it up to the board. Wanna put a policy in place so we can put it on our,
Well, the board did direct us to develop a policy, so
Okay,
that
well,
was their
then-
wording,
then let's put
But-
together a policy,
yeah,
bring it to the board, and we'll make a decision.
yeah. You know, my,
But my thought is that, let sleeping dogs lie. Once you bring it up and you make something out of it, we're not doing enough. And you're gonna get that, and Chris will start getting the response, big deal.
yeah,
You know, what are you really doing? Why bring up an issue you don't need to bring up?
I think we'll
If you wanna stop using it, that's fine, but why are you trying to make a big deal out of it?
Because I think it is a big deal.
We're not doing
Everybody
anything.
thinks it's a big deal, but you,
But we're not doing anything.
we are, we're minimizing our plastic
A case of water a month.
and our cups and our silverware, our flatware. We are
We don't
doing
use it.
something.
We don't use any at the board.
At our other events, we are. And again, I think we're taking a leadership role in showing that you can minimize your plastic use, which is beneficial to the environment.
I don't disagree with what we're doing,
Yes, I know.
just that we don't need to make a big deal out of something that's not a big deal. We're not doing that much.
Let the board decide.
Okay.
Okay. Put
So
together
we'll-
the policy
okay.
and
So,
we'll
then
talk
have
it
to take
over
back
at
to
the board
board.
meeting.
Okay,
All right, perfect.
all right.
All righty.
So also at that September 4th meeting, the board, the item that was in front of the board in general, or in particular, was overnight hotel stays in San Diego County.
Yeah.
Throughout the conversation, and resulted in the direction of the board, was to develop a policy, a more comprehensive review of our district travel policy, not just overnight hotel stays in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been meeting with Ann and with Diane and reviewing our primary source documents. And there's two of them. There's ordinance 212 and there's the employee handbook. There's a section of the employee handbook that talks about travel
Mhm.
policies. And in general, I think they're pretty good. For the most part, we don't need to change a lot of things. But there are some key areas that I'd like to talk about. And it looks like you have a copy of it.
Uh-huh.
So we'll just kind of go through these. So just the first one, conference registration. We need to stress that these things need to be done in a timely fashion. You guys all know that there's an early registration fee and then there's a late registration fee. And that's not just the price of the conference registration, that's the hotel rates
Right.
and airfare. So everything, we need to make sure we're doing these things as early as possible. So we're gonna add some more supporting language in the document that says shall only be, maybe the district will only pay the early registration fees
Fine.
unless there's good justification.
Okay.
If something gets dropped on us at the last minute and we've already missed it, okay, we'll deal with that.
Okay.
But in general, we wanna make sure that we're taking advantage. I think there's something that staff can do to help the directors better to know, hey, something's coming up, we need to hear from you. You'll notice in the board packets, at not every meeting, but at certain meetings, it says upcoming events.
Yep.
And we put it in there, but I don't know how well you guys pick up on that.
Yeah.
So maybe we can do better outreach to say, hey, the deadline for this thing is such and such a date, we need to hear from you by such and such a date, or we're not registering.
Yeah, I think adding that last phrase in there, in addition to the Aqua November thing is coming, we need your commitment by XYZ. And I think,
do you know if we include that in there, a deadline for the director's
We
information?
put the dates on there, but.
yeah, but I don't think we put the
We
deadline.
give the dates of the event.
Yeah.
We do.
Right.
So
The
if we give the
deadline-
deadline to the board, then they know if you don't make the deadline, and you wanna go, you're paying the extra.
We
I
put
think
those
that's
on
fair.
the travel logs, but nobody seems to be.
Yeah, well, the travel logs, they come
Every meeting.
sometime, well, the travel log.
Yeah, where you pick
But-
out what you wanna go.
Yeah, exactly, that's the dates.
Yeah.
Again,
We have
for,
a cancellation date and a registration date. That date on there is for, early bird registration.
does
and
it
it's
say that,
also-
Dan? I don't think it says that, I didn't know that.
I'd have to look at it.
Yeah, take
If
a
it-
look.
If it
That's-
doesn't, we'll put it
Yeah,
on there.
we need more of an identifier.
I don't know how well you guys, how much you look at that travel log.
Oh, yeah,
I look at it, but I'm looking at it to say, oh, who's going to what, not always what's the deadline.
exactly.
What's the
That's
registration
what I'm
fee.
looking, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
I'll
what I said.
encourage the two of you, and when
Yeah.
we go back to the board, I'll encourage all the board members to really take a look at that, cause there's a lot of good information.
And, cause if we haven't, we're going to add late registration ends X.
Right, okay, so
Okay.
that's all I.
All right, that's great.
So lodging, so this is kind of where it first started. My recommendation, something that should be put in there, is overnight hotel stays, and we include 50 miles, but we could change that number. So overnight hotel stays within 50 miles are not reimbursable, just so it's clear. I think you may recall that before, our current ordinance doesn't say that. It's been our practice to not reimburse overnight hotel stays in like downtown San Diego, but there's no document that I've been able to find that clarifies it, so I think we should clarify it. If we want a different mileage radius, then that's, that's probably where the conversation should focus. Clearly, if there's an event in San Marcos, we're not gonna put you up, but.
Yeah.
But if it's in Monterey, we will.
Yeah.
So where between San Marcos and Monterey, where's the line?
Well, I think we have, two for sure, San Diego, and then one up in, well, when we're in Anaheim, we get stayed. And I don't think
That's
the
beyond
one
50
in
miles.
Yeah.
Mission Viejo is a one-day event anyway.
It's
Right.
usually
Yeah.
Iowa Region 10.
Right,
type
right,
of
so
thing.
really, it's the two in San Diego that are, in my
question.
opinion, causing
Yeah.
grief,
And there's likely to be more in the future.
maybe.
So,
Yeah.
and we'll get to that in a little bit. And I think when we get down to the ordinance number 212 issue, we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the last sentence of that first bullet under lodging, it says, may consider reimbursement of funds towards a one-night hotel stay in lieu of mileage reimbursement, if legally permissible. So what this means is, if a director wanted to stay in a hotel in San Diego, the district may not pay for the whole hotel, but that same director wouldn't have been doing his round-trip commute. So he's saving the district $35, $40. That money could be made available towards a director to defray the cost. I checked with the attorneys on that, and they said, you have to be careful how you word it, because you can't compensate somebody, a director, for costs they didn't incur, but you could write a policy that says they can get a credit towards a hotel room, so.
Okay, because I had this all down and I forgot, I got the different car. So, I have, the only objection I have is a one-night stay towards a hotel stay, because I just did the math while I was here early. You can get an Airbnb for anywhere from $52 to $60 a night. And you can take a taxi back and forth to the event for about $8 each way. So for a 3-night stay, you spend $48 on a taxi, you spend $180 at the $60 rate for the room, and the mileage, you spend $169.84 on mileage, and because of the parking, standard parking, you spend $130, $135. So cost per cost, if you use the Airbnb for every night, it's $284.60, and if you use the mileage and the parking, it's $304. So I would strike the one night and may consider reimbursement of funds towards a hotel stay during multi-events in lieu of mileage reimbursement, mileage/parking
Okay,
reimbursement.
so if it's multi-day and a director wanted to stay every night of the event, they would get a credit for each day in the mileage amount.
Right, and the parking, because you don't have parking because if you went to an event, you got to park, and the last two events, it's been $45 and $50 a day for parking,
Yeah.
not valet. It just, self-parking. So that's why I say if we change that to reimbursement of funds towards a hotel stay during multiple events in lieu of mileage and parking reimbursement if legally permissible. So you know what the mileage is, you know what it is, you can stay down there for less than that, or even close to that. You pay the difference if you wanna stay down there for the rest of it. They know what the,
Let me tell you the problem I see, number one, I believe there's a few directors on the board that would never even consider using an Airbnb. So you do, you happen to like them,
yeah,
but nobody else really wants to, that I know of,
fine.
Mike, Craig, and Betty, I don't see any of them, myself, using an Airbnb. That's something to be, that's your thing. So I like the idea of staying one night for those times rather than staying 3 or 4 nights. I like the way you have this written, and I had nothing to do with it, but I like the way this is written. Better than staying in an Airbnb. I'm not gonna stay in an Airbnb.
So let me.
But you're right. And if you do want to stay just one night, it would still be the same. Your funds towards a stay in a hotel in lieu of mileage is permissible. So you would use that mileage calculation, which in this case is $164, $169. If you want to use that as part of a hotel cost, well then you save some mileage. You're still going to spend the parking. So if a hotel costs $300, round numbers, 70 and 30 is 2. You're gonna pay the hotel $270. I don't think anybody on the board's going to do that.
But I don't wanna get too caught up in the language, let me clarify what I was trying to say here. We're not gonna pay for we're not gonna outright pay for lodging for any of the nights. But we could give you a credit for the mileage that you would be avoiding if you stay down there, but only for the number of trips that you avoid.
Mileage and parking.
Well, but we have to be careful of parking, cause even if you spend the night, you may be parking too, whether you're parking at the hotel, not all the Airbnbs include parking, some do. You may be parking at the hotel, or you may be parking at the event center, wherever the conference is if you drove, so that may be a wash. So,
But I think we have to be careful so you don't negate the potential free parking at an Airbnb.
yeah,
So word that so that if you don't park at the hotel, whatever
We're
you
doing this all
say.
about an Airbnb. We're doing this for you.
We're doing it for anybody who wants to participate in it.
To you.
If you want to, I mean, Glenn uses Airbnb a bit.
yeah,
And so there are people who maybe come along and go, hey, I mean, you take a look at the website at some of those units, they're in hotels. They just happen to rent a suite
yeah.
and it's a hotel stay. So it really is not, somebody's kitchen cupboard you're staying in.
Right.
So it could be a benefit for everyone. And that's what I was really trying to get to. So I just didn't want to preclude that
So
opportunity.
what you're saying is that if you decide to stay down there, that the district picks up your taxi, Uber, whatever you use to get back and forth, assuming you're parking free somewhere, we'll make that assumption, and the mileage that they would say. They don't pay you mileage. So they give you the mileage, which is from San Marcos to San Diego.
48.8 miles,
Round trip?
one way.
No way.
Look it up on Google.
It's not 48 miles down to the.
I went San Marcos to San Diego, 48.8.
No,
I thought it was
it's
like
not.
35.
It's like 35 miles to the hotels that we go to.
I just did Google because I didn't know.
So it's
That's
70 miles.
Do you remember?
Google,
It's from the
the
district.
distance
office.
from San Marcos to San Diego, California.
That sounds like mileage from here to the airport.
The drive from San Marcos to San Diego is 35.0 miles.
Okay,
What's right?
35 miles.
Gee, do you have the right number?
So
All right.
70 times 60 cents, it's about $40.
70 times 58 cents.
Yeah, so it's about $40.
Okay.
Each day, each way?
Each way. Well,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
round trip.
Round trip?
Round trip, $40 each, that's
$40
$120.
each day.
Yeah, so that's $120 for a 3-day event.
Right.
So perhaps if whatever that amount is,
And then what's your Uber tax?
whatever the parking is, whatever that totals, that's what the district would reimburse you for it. If you wanna stay at the Hyatt for $500, you're only gonna get reimbursed for 304.
I don't know where the 304 came
Oh,
from.
that's the mileage plus the parking, back and forth, 3 days, plus parking for 3 days at the event.
Yeah,
That's where the 304.84 came from. So that would be what the district would allocate. You can spend that driving back and forth and parking every day, or if you wanna stay, find a place downtown, stay there and Uber back and forth.
yeah, I guess in my mind, Jim, it would be $120 is what the district would give you. You've avoided $120 in round-trip transportation costs over the 3 nights.
Right, but what about the parking?
Well, how do I know wouldn't have otherwise, how do I know you're not gonna have parking anyway?
Well, whatever it is,
Unless you wanna say that.
But you can find parking for free if you look for it.
you
If
can.
you're looking for an Airbnb, you can look for a parking space.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. But I think you have to add in the parking, because if you're driving back and forth, you're gonna park at the event. There's no doubt about
Well, I
that.
park at Seaport Village and it's $30.
Oh.
Half a day it's like 10. So for those days you only go for half a day.
You're probably
There's
one of the
different
few, you're probably one of the few people who do that. I park at the event every time I go, because that's where the parking is.
I also stay in hotels and I'm staying in Airbnb.
Well,
So
yeah, but
there's
not,
differences for different people.
you stay at the hotel when we go to Monterey, but
Oh, yeah.
nobody has, we're not quibbling about that. We're talking about the downtown opportunity to stay downtown, but not spend more money, district money, than is allocated for the back and forth and the parking that would normally cost at the event.
So my thinking is if your travel habits saved us money, you should be entitled to that to offset other costs you may have picked up.
Right.
I don't know that I can make that argument with parking. I can't justify paying for your parking and paying for your parking, giving you money for the parking, and then are you gonna turn in receipts when you stay at a hotel? I don't know. So you'd almost have to say, if you took us up on this mileage, in lieu mileage reimbursement, you're not entitled to any parking wherever you stay.
Well, okay, then if I stayed at the Airbnb and rather than take a cab, I drove over to the event and parked in the garage, you'd pay for that. So I'm just trying to say the district is gonna spend the money. I'm trying to spend less money
Right.
or equal or less.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we're not crossing any legal boundaries where you're
Right.
reimbursing you
Okay.
twice for the same cost.
Whatever
Right,
the attorney
and
says.
what they're saying is you can't reimburse for parking when you might not be paying for parking.
Right.
No,
You might, if you're staying Airbnb, you may be able to park in the guy's garage in his
It-
backyard
absolutely.
for free.
but you didn't have to take a vehicle, cab, from there if
But
you
who
wanted to
knows?
save money.
But who knows, if you don't actually incur a cost, then you can't be reimbursed for it.
But if you do, the only way you could incur a cost is you gotta get from wherever you're staying to the event. Or you drive yourself to the event and park in the parking garage.
See, now the attorneys would say, if you're taking money for mileage, you can't also get an Uber or a taxi. We already paid you once for transportation to the event. You can't stay at a hotel downtown and then catch an Uber, now you're being paid twice to get to the event. The attorneys would have a problem with that. If I gave you, in my mind, if I gave you a $120 credit, it's for transportation benefits. I can't then see your expense report that says, I paid this much for an Uber. Cause I'm gonna say, I already paid you for transportation, that's what the $120 was, I can't see other transportation costs.
Well, then here's what's gonna happen. I will get the Airbnb. I won't take transportation, but I'll drive to the
From
unit,
Airbnb
to the unit and pay for parking in the,
Yeah.
in the event.
Yeah.
And that's what you'll pay. Okay, that's fine. It seems like you're spending extra money, but that's okay with, not okay, but
Yeah.
that's the legal way.
Well,
and
and
that's
certainly,
okay.
part of the reason for this is wanna make sure we're conscious of cost and keeping costs down.
Yes.
And we have to do it in a way that's legal and we can't
Right.
cross any legal boundaries. And sometimes those may be in contradiction with each other.
Hmm?
That,
Yeah.
to follow the rules may cost a little bit more, so we just have to be careful.
Well,
I'm good for it.
and whatever vehicle we use to publicize our great use of plastics, of not using plastics anymore. Right under it, I want our use of paying for hotels in San Diego. I want that to be broadcast out there as well. Can't have one without the other.
Yeah, and that's why I want to stay away from ever saying that we paid to house a director overnight. Because all I'm saying is,
We're reimbursing.
we were gonna pay you to drive back and forth.
Fine.
That's a legitimate cost. If you find some way to keep us from paying that, to me, I can justify that.
Okay,
So
Yeah, that's
that
fine.
$47 of not driving back, and you're still driving one way. You're driving back, so you're saving, depending how many days
Yeah.
you stay there, a couple
You
of
save
trips.
one round trip for every night that you
Yeah.
are there.
yeah,
So
okay.
that's the savings.
Whatever it
So
is.
if it's $47 a night, that's the savings, then if you stay there 2 nights,
It's
$94.
Yeah.
$94.
And I think-
That's it, and then
yeah.
whatever you pay the
You
thing.
gotta pay,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's
That's
great.
fine,
Right.
that's fine.
That's-
Yeah.
that
Without
works.
getting caught up in the parking. and
Exactly,
other
there you go, that's
transportation and all
easier,
that.
schmeezier,
Right.
yeah,
There you go.
okay,
Okay.
fine.
All right,
And you can probably find a couch for $30 a
I
night.
sleep in the backyard,
all right, second bullet under lodging.
double book with somebody that's already paid.
So several other agencies, and Ann and Diane helped me look at other agencies' policies on travel, and many of them talk about hotel night stays before a conference begins or the night that it ends. So for example, you're gonna go to a conference in Anaheim, and it's a 3-day conference in Anaheim, starts at 9 o'clock in the morning. Is it?
They don't start at 9 in the morning, they start at 8. Let's clarify.
Registration
That
is
makes a
usually at
difference.
8, it depends. So, and that's why the times that are in here are important, because if it's let's say it's an 8 o'clock start in Anaheim, what's the earliest that's reasonable to have somebody leave their house to get up there, drive there, park, get their way into the registration, and sit down at breakfast at 8 o'clock? So we recommend 6 o'clock. So if the travel would require that you leave before 6 a.m. to be in your seat and ready to begin the conference, whenever it does start, then you would be eligible for a hotel night stay the night before the conference starts. I don't encourage it necessarily, because there's a lot of our customers that would say, I get on the road at 5 o'clock every morning, and I get to my job on time, but,
They're not driving to LA.
yeah.
And they're not driving to LA traffic.
Well, so Anaheim's not
Exactly.
LA either, so if you say Anaheim's a good example, and maybe you guys have a suggested time, what's the earliest that's reasonable? I don't expect a director to get up at 2 in the morning to
No.
hit the road to be at a conference.
But I used to do that to save, now I won't do that anymore.
Well, these are just thoughts. So, but if you could leave by 7 and get there, it doesn't seem right to pay for a hotel. Let's say a conference started at 10 in Anaheim.
Yeah,
Is anybody gonna spend the night
no,
before?
no,
Okay, what if it starts at 9? What if it starts at 8? What if it starts, when is the right time to say, you're not eligible for a hotel night stay the night before?
I think the 8 o'clock is right there at the threshold. If the registration and the breakfast starts at 8 o'clock,
CSDA start at 7:30.
Well, registration, I don't know that any conference starts at 7:30, usually registration and
Breakfast.
the breakfast. if
Which
it's-
is when you talk to people, just like
Yeah.
a cocktail hour.
Right, so I don't wanna worry about the time the thing starts, I wanna say, when does a director have to leave his house?
well,
And
yeah,
I
so that,
agree.
I,
Right.
if you have to
Because
leave,
LA
if, don't you think if you have to leave before 6 a.m., it should be an overnight?
Oh, yeah, I would say so.
Okay,
So that's the time that we have, in the second bullet there, it says, need to define reasonable times such as leaving home before 6 a.m. or returning after 10 p.m. So we're talking about the night before the first day of the conference. Let's look on the back end. The conference ends and you're up in, I don't know, Simi Valley. And how late can you spend that night? The last night, and what's the latest that's reasonable to expect a director to be home in his house by? So we don't want you to get home at 2 in the morning, traveling. So is it reasonable to pay for a hotel the last night?
But I don't know that that's ever been a question since I've been here, because I'm the one that leaves there and drives. And I've never charged for another night to stay.
Right,
I've never done that.
yeah.
but I've gotten home at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
When you're leaving Monterey or Sacramento at 1 o'clock.
in the
Yeah.
afternoon.
Your
You're leaving
situation's-
early though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, see, that's the deal. If there is an event that normally doesn't start till 5:30, and it goes till 7:30,
Right.
if you're at and Simi Valley would be a no-brainer to me that you should stay over. But if it's Anaheim, well, you know,
Oh yeah, Anaheim's no big deal.
no big deal. So
Right.
I think based on past history, the one in Anaheim, nobody stays the last night overnight. I don't believe.
No, I've never seen anybody do
Yeah. So I think
And I think the time of 10 o'clock would capture that. If there's an event in Anaheim, it's an Aqua conference in Anaheim.
Right.
The last night, it ends on a Thursday or whenever they end, and the last session ends at 5, you can get home by 10, so you're not eligible.
Right.
Right?
That's
But if
fine.
you're in Monterey, and it
right.
ends at
Or
5
if you're
o'clock.
I mean, Simi Valley, that may be. I don't
Where
think
is
we ever
Simi
have.
Valley?
It's north, it's
North.
gotta go through LA.
Yeah, it's north of LA.
Yeah, pick something just through LA. 'Cause
Yeah,
you
so
don't
that's
deal with
that
traffic.
to me pushes it over the edge.
But even then, leaving Simi Valley at 5 o'clock, I can get home by 10 o'clock.
But you'd have not to miss the event. But if you left Simi Valley at 7:30, you wouldn't get home by 10 o'clock. You would not.
Well, yeah,
If you stayed.
an evening event,
Yeah, right.
yeah, which,
So-
in-
Part of
so,
the conference.
I
So-
throw that out, and the reason we included these times is because I think it's reasonable to have some limitations, and we looked through other agencies, and 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. seemed reasonable, so this is probably something
Yeah.
that I could get behind recommending to the board.
Yeah.
And if the committee has a difference of opinion, you guys can have your perspective at the board meeting as well. If we
I
get-
think there's a line in here. Where the heck is the line? About attendance without. No, that's the part. But if there is a situation where it looks like it's over the edge, barely, at the board meeting, you can bring it up and say, hey, I would like to get approved for this event to stay the extra night because I believe it's going to be beyond the ordinance or the policy.
Yes.
It's not there.
Well, let's talk about that. So I'll say it's under the 4th bullet under lodging.
Okay.
And let's move on to the 3rd bullet, and it kind of goes what Director Hernandez was talking about.
Yeah.
The cost of alternative lodging, such as Airbnb, it's allowable but shall not exceed the conference group or government rate for the hotels for the conference.
But you're never gonna be paying that, so what does it matter?
Well, this may be if you may be up in Monterey.
Right,
If Jim wanted to stay at an Airbnb,
sure.
he can do that. It just can't be more than the published rate for the hotels. So if the Monterey,
You're only reimbursing for his true cost.
right.
Whatever it costs for Airbnb, not above and beyond what we could have gotten in a hotel.
And that's the whole point of this.
Okay.
You can't spend more on your Airbnb than you would have otherwise.
Right,
Because the
Makes sense.
basic tenant, it's at the Portola Hotel, and the
Mhm.
rate is 2 1/4. That's the max we're gonna
Mhm.
pay.
Right.
Whether you go to some other hotel or Airbnb or stay in your
Whatever.
friend's couch,
that makes sense.
that
Yeah.
sets the limit, and not to exceed your actual cost too.
Mhm.
So you're not entitled to 225, but it can't exceed.
Right. No,
225.
you
Still
whatever
shouldn't
the actual
exceed.
cost if it's
If
below.
you stay at a friend's couch, you have them write you a little receipt.
We'll talk about, that's not a bullet.
Okay,
That's all right.
okay.
I'm hoping I'm not gonna see the friend's couch.
That's what I thought he did.
Jim
in
has friends
I thought he
all
did that in
over.
Chicago. I thought he stayed at his dad's place.
No. All right, so the last bullet, out-of-state travel and all overnight hotel stays require prior board approval, with the exception of Aqua. Aqua is pretty well understood, okay? So you don't need to get approval. But if
Yeah, because
Cal DCEL has an event in Hawaii,
water reuse sometimes goes to Denver
right,
and maybe somebody place
Yeah.
else.
so what I'm
The
saying
only
is,
one I've seen go out of state is him.
but
Well, that's because you don't fly.
we're setting up a policy for the future.
Yeah.
And you may choose to
drive
start
to
flying.
Denver.
I don't know, you may,
I like everything.
See?
but, and this doesn't say you can't go out of state, this
Right.
just says the board has to approve it.
Yeah.
And I would say it's not just saying yes or no, it's a yes, and here's how many hotel nights you can stay, and that
Yeah.
type of stuff. That's gonna require you guys to pay attention to the travel log, because it has to be agendized,
Yeah,
it has to
good,
get in
good.
front of the board,
Okay.
Okay.
so.
If you
And-
snooze, you lose.
And the second sentence in that last bullet is important. Attendance without prior approval runs the risk of expenses not being reimbursed. So if somebody decides to go to water reuse in Denver and submits a claim form, I'm gonna say, wasn't board
Sorry.
approved, I can't reimburse this.
Sorry.
You can always take it to the board and say, I want them to.
No, they're gonna say
appeal the
sorry as
judgment.
well.
I know.
They wouldn't, you weren't here. I did a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation about the water district. You should send it to you. Should send it to
That's
you.
right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I had help with the Photoshop and all this. Came back for $250 reimbursement. Board said no.
Woo, tough crowd.
You aren't kidding.
Yeah.
No.
Was it a hell no, or was it just a
Wait,
polite
wait,
no?
wait.
No,
It
it
wasn't-
was a pretty stern no.
It
Because I tried to argue. For God's sake, it's $250. I spent
Yeah.
way more than that.
It wasn't a 5-0 no,
I
it
wasn't.
was the old board,
I know.
and it was really the GM that said no.
That's
Hell
right.
no.
That was.
And he's not around anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see what
There's
happens.
another
So be
strike.
careful.
Another strike on
Be
us.
careful.
Be careful.
Yeah.
You know what happens when the GM.
Yeah.
Well, see, to be quite honest, you joke about it, but I need something to know what
Sure.
rules or what are reimbursable, because otherwise, how do I treat
Sure.
individual people who are all my bosses?
Yeah.
So it's
Sure.
nice for me to be able to say, hey, the ordinance says you
But
gotta go to the board.
exactly. Or let
You know?
the board told me to do it.
If it
Don't
was up to
blame
me,
me.
I'd say yes, but
I know
I
you
can't.
would.
It's an
I know
ordinance,
you would.
know.
Remember, I can write this. I
I
gotta
wish I could.
I
wish
gotta.
I could.
Yeah. I'd love to, but
Yeah. All right, transportation. Valet parking is not reimbursable unless self-parking is not available, so that's pretty
Yeah.
reasonable. You know, something we didn't add here, and I think this is what Director Hernandez was talking about. The last event we went to, and I forget which one it was, but it was at the Marriott Marquis.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's right next to the convention center.
Yeah.
When you go in, if you go right, you went into the Marriott Marquis parking lot. You go left, you go into the convention center parking lot. $40, $20. And that's, I learned the first day I paid 40, and then
Yeah.
somebody at lunch says, oh, why'd you park there? Why didn't you just take your left and park in the convention center? And so the next 2 days I did.
I didn't even know about that.
So we can help you guys say, hey, there's parking, if we're aware of it.
If you're
we'll say,
aware of it, yeah, by
turn
all
left.
means, yeah.
Next time, turn left.
Yeah.
And-
If you want to park at Seaport Village, it's $5. Then you can get an Uber for another $20 and save district
Yeah.
money.
Well, I gotta be honest, the reason why I park there is I can't walk for long distances.
Well, that's
I
pretty
don't-
long distance
I
now.
don't have a handicap thing. No, 'cause there's a back door.
Oh, is
There's a
there?
back door right there.
Oh, I see. Put that on the map.
That's
Yeah,
kind
with backdoor maps, yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's
Yeah.
tricks you learn when you go to
Yeah.
these events,
Well,
so.
let's learn the tricks.
Air travel, so the air industry has changed, air travel industry, hell, you can snooze during this part because it doesn't affect you, but.
Oh, first class. I
Yeah.
want first class.
So when the policy that we have in place touches on travel, but it didn't, this was an era before you had to pay for seat assignments and
Yeah,
checking
right,
bags
right.
and all that. So those are reasonable costs in my opinion. We will pay for a seat selection, because otherwise you get assigned
Thank you.
at the gate. Not first class,
No.
and even in the plane, the further you get to the
Why do you
front,
pay for seats? I'm sorry.
'Cause
You fly coach. End of story.
right, but coach, middle seat, aisle seat, window seat, front of
Yeah.
plane,
See,
back
I
of
didn't
plane.
even know this. Or I'd have been up a little closer to the
What does
front.
it cost to do that?
$25.
Last time I flew was $13
Oh,
one way and 17 for some reason.
Oh,
Well, I'm
the
thinking
other-
about cost to the district now. Wait, now I can get on someone else's back.
Yeah.
Yours.
Yeah,
Why do you get to select what seat you get? The plane goes the same place.
that's true.
If it goes the same place, it gets there at the same time.
yeah, but you
So
gotta
it's
be
comfort.
you gotta be fresh
You're
when you get
paying
there.
for a comfort class.
Hey,
You're more comfortable sitting at a window. You're more comfortable.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, you could make the argument we shouldn't pay air travel. We should send somebody by
somebody
bus.
drive. Or yeah.
too.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's
It's a
do it.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah. That seems a little biased.
But I think most agencies, us included, have recognized that air travel is a reasonable way to go. And I think reasonable costs associated with that are justifiable.
Yeah.
My recommendation would be that we would pay for one bag and we would pay for reasonable seat selections.
Yeah, that
Not
makes
first class, not front of the plane,
That's,
none of that stuff.
I think that's reasonable.
Seat
And
selection.
seat selection.
I get to choose what seats.
Yeah.
I'm gonna win.
Okay, meals for a one-day event. What time frames are reasonable? So this goes back to when are you leaving? Let me give you an example. So an event starts at 1 o'clock. Water reuse down in Mission Bay. First day starts at 1 o'clock. Are you entitled to get reimbursed for the lunch that's before the start of the conference? Or if it starts at 8, are we paying for your breakfast before the conference starts? Little things like this would be nice if we vetted it out a little bit better. So some agencies do, some are very clear that says the meal before the event starts and the meal after the event ends are not reimbursable. So if let's say there's a 3-day conference, starts at 8, ends at 5. You don't get breakfast the first day, you don't get dinner the last day.
Yeah, but that conflicts with, you gotta leave at 6 to get there at 8.
I get it,
So,
but their argument, not my argument, is, hey, you have to leave early. Breakfast is on you the rest of the days. Why should we pay breakfast the day of the conference? I'm just telling you what other agencies do. So
and if it starts at 8, they always have a breakfast.
that's the other issue. Yeah, sometimes it's already included, so we're
Yeah.
already paying for your
I've
breakfast.
gotta be honest, it's kinda like seat selection. We nickel and dime in here,
Yeah,
why even include that?
yeah. This isn't a
Common
strong
sense.
one to me. The second
Yeah.
bullet under this is the one that I think we have to put we don't have limitations on meals. So right now, a director can say, I went to Morton's and I spent $120. I don't have any way to say.
But
let's-
nobody does that, right?
But I
But
want
you
to,
could.
from a public perception, I want to be able to say, we put reasonable controls in place. We'll do some homework to figure out what are reasonable controls. The federal government does some districts do it. Carlsbad says $75 total for the day for meals. That's too low. But we can say, no more than 20 for breakfast, 30 for lunch, 40 for dinner, something like that.
And I think we have to be a little mindful, because a dinner in San Diego
Yep.
versus a dinner in Chicago,
Yeah, big difference.
big
And
difference in cost.
The
Or
federal-
San Francisco.
Or
Yeah,
San
the-
Francisco.
The federal government has
Oh, they
different
do?
areas.
Ah.
San Francisco's way higher than Omaha, Nebraska.
yeah.
So they recognize that.
They just don't eat at
They
home.
don't eat
I
that.
recommend we go by the federal government, whatever they say.
They're
is
pretty
fine.
low. They tend to be low, but we'll take a look
Take
at
a
that.
look.
And we'll
See
bring
what
it
happens.
Better than
forward.
what I heard,
But,
Well, let them
Yeah.
look and see.
because Mr. Sinelli goes under federal, he says,
it's a pretty
They
good
got-
deal.
They got a good deal.
They got, well,
Well,
Hey, well,
Take a look.
I used to work for a defense contractor, and they went federal, and it was pretty low, but that was
yeah,
late 80s. Maybe
yeah.
that
Now with
changed.
the deep state, they're
dinosaurs
giving,
have
they're
gotten
giving
smaller
money
since
away.
then.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Okay, take a look at that one.
All right, ordinance 212, so that's one of the governing documents. So we have, if you remember in ordinance 212, there's a whole list of organizations that we're members of. So we're members. There's another section of 212 that says per diems and compensation for those is allowable. I think it's a little too loose, and here's why. So if it says Cal Decel is a justifiable, we want to be a member of Cal Decel. We can all get behind that.
Yeah.
You know, if Cal Decel says, we're gonna have a conference in Australia,
Oh, right.
because we think it's important to learn from
Well, you're
Australia.
not gonna drive there, so.
I
Okay,
don't
yeah.
have any authority as the general manager to say, I can't pay for you to go. So I think there needs to be, and this could fall under that overnight
Doesn't that
hotel
fall-
stays, out-of-state
Doesn't
travel
that
needs
fall into
prior
out-of-state
approval.
travel?
Yeah, I think it would.
Yeah, so just let it fall into that.
Yeah, but I think there may be some other reasonable accommodations, because so forgetting about out-of-state travel, does that mean if Cal Decel has any event anywhere in California, that it's a compensable event for a director? I don't know the answer to that. There's all kinds of events happening all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if did we mean to say that, hey, if it's on this list, have at it. You
Yeah.
can go to anything, anywhere, and then you get
Hey, I don't-
mileage, you
Yep,
get
yep,
per diems, you get meals.
That's what we've
Other
been-
than the 10 per
That's what
month,
we've been doing that.
kind of, yeah, but
So
I'm not,
why would
I'm
change
not
it?
saying it's being, I'm not saying change it, I'm saying these are things we should think about, because right now we don't have
I think we
a
should,
limit.
you know, that extra list, I don't remember knowing, well, I know, I'm sure I
don't
know
see
about
the
it,
list in
but,
front of us so we can look at it right now.
yeah,
Dan, do you happen to have a copy of 212?
I can go there.
yeah, because, you know, we
Make a couple
added,
copies.
yeah,
Yeah.
we added that one, thing that we went to that was so beneficial, and it wasn't on
North
any of,
County.
what was it?
North County EDC.
No, it was something else,
Water environmental, whatever
something.
it is, I know which one,
WEF?
it was recent, no, it wasn't WEF, it was recent though.
Yeah, it was
Southern
a-
California Water Coalition.
Yeah, there you
That's
go,
the one.
water
Oh,
coalition.
yeah.
Yeah.
We just recently added that to the
We
list.
added that to it.
Well, that was local, it was no expense.
Well, it's local today.
Right, it's local
But
today.
yeah, because I think it moves around.
And what if they start having weekly things?
Oh, exactly.
I don't know what the future holds, so I'm
Yeah.
just saying, did we intend to say, if it's on the list, you guys can go ahead and do it,
Well, I
or
think
staff
that's,
for that
that's
matter.
exactly what we intended to say.
I think if it's on the list, we can go to it.
We can go.
But I think common sense tells you, I don't think anybody's abused it.
No, I wouldn't say
So
that.
why ratchet down something that's not being abused just for the sake of because we might find out that because to change it back in the other direction will be almost hard.
It'd be tough.
Impossible.
Yeah,
So why don't you just leave it the way it is, and as long as no one's abusing it,
yeah,
no harm, no foul. And nobody's been abusing it,
yeah.
Yeah, I think, you're right.
so it's like, why leave it
And,
that way?
you
You
know,
know what the
so-
future holds.
You know,
Well, let's-
I know,
Can we,
I'm-
can we pause for a second,
Yeah.
because Ann's
Yeah.
not taking minutes right
well,
now.
I know,
so-
cause there is, what the heck did they say? I think the water reuse in San Diego that we went to, I think there is one coming up in Denver.
Well, so, well,
That's out of
I
state
think.
travel.
yeah,
That's out of state travel.
Well, is that here?
yeah, that was up in the travel, well, so that was the fourth bullet under lodging,
Yeah,
that says,
One, two.
out of state overnight hotel stays require prior board approval,
right.
with the exception of Aqua. So,
Okay, so if it's on the list and it's out of state, we have to get board approval.
or if it requires overnight hotel stays,
Well, yeah, but if it's out of state, surely it's gonna have that.
yeah.
Yeah, or
Yes,
if it,
yeah, so
or if it's separate
A
issues,
Denver
yeah.
thing would be captured by that
Yeah,
fourth bullet
okay,
under
all right.
lodging. Yeah.
Unless you wanted to go and pay your own hotel stay, because you could fly up there, still get per diem, just not have your hotel paid for. You stay at Airbnb for $15 a night and have Sophie's couch.
Yeah, that's right.
Your list is on page 4.
Catch whatever German
Thank
may
you.
be necessary.
I'll just, I know a homeless person that's got a nice underpad. these
Yeah,
days.
so go to section 2.1 on page 4. That's the authorized district memberships.
Okay,
So you'll notice that fifth from the bottom, we added Southern California Water Coalition.
Right.
So that's in there, but this is the whole list.
okay,
And if you go to the next page, on page 5, under section D,
dog,
it says conferences, meetings, and other functions in which the district is a member, as listed in 2.1 before, and which have a significant meaningful link, those are all compensable. So those
Okay.
are qualifying for per diem. So I'm just wanna make sure that you guys know that I'm tying those two together and say, is that the intent?
okay,
I
but
think
now
it
we're
is
gonna be
okay.
changing it to, with the
Well,
out
no.
of state overnight
I don't know
thing.
that I'd necessarily say we're changing it, it just, it kinda clarifies that the overnight hotel stay, out-of-state travel, wherever it is, even if it's not on this list of agencies, requires board approval.
Right,
Even if you are on this list,
right.
it would be subject to board approval.
Okay.
We can-
Sure.
We can
Alright.
clarify that in these, I just read section D.
Yeah.
We can maybe add a section G that says, all subject to board approval. So,
Okay,
the last item under ordinance 212 is some agencies have limitations on attendance at events. So for example, the Water Authority says each director can only go to 4 COWU meetings per year.
Yeah.
Well, they will only compensate for up to 4 COWU meetings per year. We don't have any limitation. You know, back to what you said just a while ago, and while you're gone, the directors mentioned things aren't being abused, and I agree, they're not being abused. In fact, I reached out to Wes and said, give me your 10-year history on director costs for travel and conferences. It's relatively flat. It's not like going up, 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 up. It's within our budget amount, and it's not greatly increasing, so I don't think we have a runaway problem.
right,
It just, when the board said, take a look at our travel policies, and we reviewed it against other agencies tend to have limits that we don't have. Number of meals, cost of meals, overnight lodging, there's things that they have that I would say are tighter controls, probably better practices than we have. So that's why we added some of these things to the list.
I don't think we should be worrying about the limit, because we have not been abusing it. And where we may want to clarify is that if you have registered and don't show up for a darn good reason, then you need to reimburse the district.
Yeah, and I think that's in
Ordinance
your
number 212, you don't have it in here, and I was just bringing that up, because it's something I asked you about a year or two ago, and I've never seen anything, I'm surprised I don't see it here today, is that if you are registered, and if you do not show up for it, you reimburse the district for all of it. Or you go to the board and mea culpa
Yeah.
and give the reason why someone died in your family.
Right.
And you have proof of a death certificate, or you had heart surgery.
Yeah.
And you have proof, you have the bills and the heart
And
surgery.
I thought there was something in
I
here.
think that's in supplement 7, which goes along, I
Oh,
can go get a copy of
Okay,
that.
that's in the
Yeah, handbook.
employee handbook. Yeah, I think there's some wording, but
We
it's
haven't
in
been
there.
doing that.
Yeah,
People
no,
have been missing things and they haven't come to the board.
very few that they've actually missed. So there's only one I can remember. So, but we don't do, like Cow was a good example. I don't always say, okay, who signed up, who went, who signed up. But if you look at bigger things like
Aqua.
Aqua.
Yeah.
That's a good example.
Okay, well, but if it's,
But,
if
but
it's,
we need to put that down. If we're changing whatever we're changing here, we need to put that down as well.
Yeah.
well,
You
if it's,
don't
if it's,
show up
if
and-
it's in the employee handbook, do we need to put it here?
Well, because no one's paid for it yet. No one's come to us and said, hey, I didn't make this thing.
Yeah.
So I owe you, but this is the reason why my dad died, my mom died,
Right.
my cousin died, whatever.
What I'm saying is, I think Ann just said, that's in the employee handbook.
So
But we
we'll-
haven't been following that.
Right, so I think there's two conversations going on. Yes, we have to look at that, and the other part is, Director Hernandez, I mentioned there's these two documents. Staff needs to make sure make sure those work together.
Okay.
Maybe we need to take it all out of one and put it in the other, or vice versa.
Well,
Or maybe it's
whatever,
okay to
okay.
have two different places,
Yeah.
but maybe they should reference each other, and it
Mhm.
says, hey, this
Yeah.
is
Okay.
augmented by wording in the
Yeah.
employee handbook,
Right.
something like that. We can do that.
Okay, and then,
So-
yeah, we do need to have them, come before us and tell us why
Plead
the
for the
dog
mercy
ate
of
the
the court.
homework and,
Yeah, otherwise reimburse it, because that's not fair that the ratepayers pay for something, your education, which
Yeah.
helps the ratepayers, but you don't show up for it.
yeah,
So without getting into specifics, I want to caution you, because sometimes the qualifying reason is something you don't want to have to discuss in public. If somebody has a medical condition
Good
or a
point.
family emergency, to air that dirty laundry in public, that's not the place to have
I
that.
agree, I agree.
So we have
100%.
to be careful.
Let-
I get the concept, but the forum is not the
No,
appropriate
you're
place.
right, I think
So,
then you need to handle it.
Yeah,
They need to come to you
right.
and you
And
deal with
if
it.
it was an emergency, I get it. If it wasn't an emergency, I don't get it. Pay for it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Well,
but
I
he-
signed up thinking maybe my dog wouldn't get sick, but then my dog did
But
get sick.
if we let the general manager handle it, then we don't care.
Yeah.
He'll take care of it, we trust him, we don't need to know about it at the board.
Right, but good general managers protect their board, just like the board protects the good general manager.
Yeah, but
I will
not-
protect each of you.
Exactly.
to the
We're,
extent
yeah,
that
we're
I
not
can.
gonna, I don't think he's gonna go out on a limb to
But-
protect Jim, cause I registered and then I decided that day I got a hangnail and I'm going.
But you're gonna have to trust me that when these things happen, and they
Yeah.
happen infrequently, I have conversations with the people that are
Absolutely.
infected, and I try to find, first of all, out of concern for the person's, what happened?
Yeah,
Oh, wow, I didn't know that, thanks for sharing that with me, I get it. But if it was just like, oh, I got a better offer. you know,
Yeah.
I was like, that
Sorry.
doesn't cut it.
sorry, Jim, you got,
I don't
In
wanna,
school, I used to be really good at my dog eat my homework.
Yeah.
had
Who?
Fire
Who?
at the house.
in
Who was that?
school,
In school.
yeah.
I used to be really good at my dog ate my homework with a fire.
well,
at the
then your
house.
teachers were weak. They
I
should,
was good, I was good.
I don't care if your dog ate your homework,
Come on,
Yeah.
yeah, well.
and if
neither
he ate
do I.
you, that's something
Neither
else.
do I, but I wasn't the teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I trust our general manager to
Oh, I do,
figure it
I
out.
do, I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
So thankfully, I don't think it's a big problem.
No.
But, so, as a reminder, this is an advisory group.
right,
The board directed staff to develop a policy, so it's possible that I may come with things that slightly
Yeah.
differ than what the,
It's not possible, it's definite, I can tell you the things you can come with.
it could happen.
No, you will happen, I
You will-
guarantee it.
I will let you know, which I failed to do one previous time, and we'll forget about that time, that what you're gonna see may be different than what and you guys will have an opportunity at the board meeting to say, the
No.
committee sees it differently.
Yeah.
The committee recommends we don't change that,
okay,
but,
The committee recommends, but the general manager thought in all his wisdom that he should supersede what the committee thought.
but it,
Why
now,
have the committee?
but remember, it's not superseding the committee's advisory.
it's right,
The general manager's job is to
General
put
manager is
forth,
also advisory.
that's true, and that's why they get to hear both.
yep,
Then why are we
Well, so
discussing
here-
any of this here?
But it's important, Director Martin, because otherwise the other three board members are gonna say, oh, so two board members have already decided this.
exactly,
We don't get to hear what the general manager thinks.
that's right.
So, but if you guys had done the research and looked at the other agencies' practices, you may realize, well, we're out of step with other practices,
Mhm.
and that's what they may hear from me. I'm not gonna say we need to include these things, I'm gonna say best practices indicate that you should put reasonable controls on these things.
And then we, as a board, will make a decision.
And if you all say general manager, you're all,
You're,
Out of-
thank you
out
for
of
the
control,
information,
yeah.
but we don't care.
right,
We are Wallacetus.
yeah.
We are the standard.
Yeah, but I will, out of respect to the committee, I'll say, hey, here's what the staff report's gonna say.
Uh-huh.
And just so you know, and then we'll each have our opportunity. So,
Okay.
I'm not even sure which of these I'm gonna, cause you guys have brought up some good points. This, overnight hotel stuff, that's complicated.
Yeah.
Try to explain that to the board of when you would get a credit and when you wouldn't, it's like, holy crap. From a general manager's perspective, it's easier to say, you don't get reimbursed for anything in San Diego. You don't get credit for mileage reimbursement. But I think it's a reasonable request, if you're saving the district, that you should get credit towards that. But then to try to develop a policy that looks at all the
Yeah.
nuances of that.
And it, you know, I may say, fine, take $160 or $40 and I'll spend it at Airbnb or whatever, and whatever the difference is, I'll pick up and I'll have peace of mind to be able to stay and not drive back and forth
Yeah.
through that
And
craziness.
if we, at the extreme example, if the press contacts us and say, how do you justify that? I can look them in the face and say, it cost the district no more than it would have otherwise cost if you
Yeah.
had not stayed overnight. We didn't pay for his hotel, there was an offset of what.
Call
cost
the
they did
board
not.
member, Mr. Hernandez will be happy to talk to you
That's
about
right.
it.
Refer all calls to Jim Hernandez. Yeah.
Are we, cause you brought it up and I haven't done it yet, maybe you have, fast track.
You know, I have on one occasion, because it's a little bit difficult to do. You gotta have them send you the bill. They send you all of the times you're on the fast track.
Right.
Then you have to go through and go, oh yeah, this is the
Yep.
day I went there, and this is the day I went there. Then I had one time a bulk reimbursement that I sent, and they paid it.
Yeah.
But it
Okay.
takes a little bit of effort on our
Director
part.
Martin, my philosophy, that's a legitimate travel expense,
Yeah.
just like mileage on your car.
Yeah.
But you get into the mechanics of how do you prove that you did
Right.
it, because the attorney's the first to tell you, we cannot reimburse you unless you show us the
Yes,
cost that's
absolutely.
incurred.
So you get the statement,
Yeah.
monthly or quarterly, and you mark. yellow
Which
mark
ones they are.
Which
Yeah.
ones they
Yep.
are.
And then myself or Ann or Diane will look at the travel log and say, yep, Hal was at
Matches it.
water
Yep.
reuse
Yep.
that
Okay.
day, and he was the
So
right time of
my
day.
concern was, how do you do that and send in all your paperwork on this?
Oh, no, you
It's
can't.
gotta be after the fact.
It's
Yeah,
after the
after
fact.
the fact,
Yeah,
yeah.
you
Okay.
get reimbursed after the fact, and we had talked about, can we provide transponders? We can
No,
say
no.
Hal checks out a district, I don't wanna do that, cause if
No,
we don't
no,
get it back
no,
and you're
no.
driving all over, so it's best just to.
Exactly.
Well, and that's a
Two
cost you
seats.
didn't add to your mileage.
That's right, they would have added another
Yeah, don't.
$8 a day,
Yeah.
$8 a trip,
Hey,
$16 a
You stand on a
day.
flea bag couch somewhere.
That's right.
I feel bad
You
for
gotta
him.
get something out of the
I
deal.
feel bad for
Yeah.
him.
I'll
You
be
know, that-
staying at the,
I know what we're gonna do. We're gonna find him out at the pool in a lounge chair,
That's right, that's right,
which is where we usually get pictures of him.
yeah.
We're
sleep
saving
into the
those.
chair, that's right.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else.
I have one thing else.
Okay,
Our workshop on the 31st,
yes.
they were gonna be talking
Did
about
you get the
solar.
note? You got my email? Okay,
I emailed you back.
okay, I didn't see it yet.
Just thought you read my emails, probably
I
not.
was out of the office, I was
Yeah.
working.
Would that be
It's at the
an,
bottom of the.
That's why I put a return receipt required.
yeah,
I answered that as well.
I saw that,
would that be an appropriate place to talk about Lift Station One property?
yeah. It could be, we haven't agendized it yet.
Okay,
We could agendize it that would allow that conversation to the extent the rest of the directors want to engage in that conversation. I don't want that to dominate the conversation. We need to focus on the solar stuff. You guys need to understand that.
correct.
If we wanna have an agendized portion to talk about that, technically, yes.
Well, again, my concern is that if we, and I understood the 26% and
Yes,
install by the end of the year. Install. So we're gonna give them the thing here on the second week in November.
no, so, that's not what I know for home
Doesn't have to be
residential, it
installed.
has to be installed. For the commercial, large-scale stuff, our consultant, Terra Verde, says no. They have to enter into, there's some agreement they have to enter into
Even better,
for tax purposes.
because,
Right.
again, my concern is, we're gonna negotiate and sign this agreement, we're gonna know what we're gonna do, full panelization out on the top of the tanks, and full panelization on the 2 acres at Lift Station One.
Right.
Okay, Well, I don't want us to cut our nose off to spite our face to make pennies at lift station 1 when we can make dollars by doing, I worked it out here. If we did that, we'd make 12% on our money by doing a development there. And I've conferred that with,
If you had a tenant.
in 6 months, you'll have the tenant filled, the space filled. I've conferred that with Rick, I've confirmed that with Dean Tilton, our good commercial industrial realtor, and we don't make anywhere near that in any of our other investments. So again, I don't want us to do anything that we can't either modify later or add so that we don't get the best bang for the district's
So
buck.
I actually think it makes sense to put that on the agenda for the workshop.
Okay.
Because I don't want it to be introduced at the meeting where we're trying to make the decision on the solar.
Perfect, okay.
So whether they're two separate items, or if the attorney says, oh, the LS1 solar is a broad enough area, I would suggest that it be separately agendized.
Okay,
Probably second, so that we can get Terra Verde in and out, and then allow some time for the directors to talk about how are these two things interrelated.
Okay.
So the Hernandez development idea, how does it relate
yeah,
to?
because Rick and Dean, I said, would you mind coming, speaking to the board, so it's not just me yakking at the board, they said they'd be happy to, so, okay.
I will talk with our attorney about agendizing it, and Ann, if you can remind me to.
Okay,
as we
perfect.
Go forward with that.
And I will send you that PowerPoint on our district.
Okay.
You'll probably wonder, how come we're not using that? Then I will be
Probably
asking for a new reimbursement.
There's gotta be a statute of limitations on this. It's, what is that, 5 years ago, or?
It was
Yeah.
at least that.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
It was, oh boy, okay.
All right, so that's. what we
Next,
had.
look at that, man. Woo, we spent some time today.
I'm sensing a rigid body posture.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything you care to share?
Yeah.
Or do you wanna go off?
Well,
Should we close the
well, yeah, let's, yeah.
Let's go ahead
You're
and
the
close the
chairman.
meeting.
Yeah, close the meeting. Thank you.
Yeah.